Hello there, and welcome to UK Diesel Electric Railway Modelling. And I'm going to be talking about the Hornby 2019 range that was announced today. And welcome to the people who are watching. I hope you've had a nice day. So I'm kind of disappointed. This is something that's been going on for years. And if you're a diesel electric modeler, as I am, Hornby don't seem to care very much. They really, you're a second-class citizen. I've created an analogy to explain, so effectively what you've got is Hornby announce new stuff, and every year they announce, 3 new steam engines, and maybe if you're lucky and you're doing an electric modeler, you might get something that year. Oh, you'll get repaints and things like that, but when it comes to new models, not really. In the last 5 years, there have been 3, just 3. In the last 10 years, there's been maybe 7, but in the same 5-year period, what we're looking at the IEP, the Class 800, 800, 801, the Class 87, and the Mark II E coach. That's it. No new wagons, no new units, just, I'm sorry, the IEP is a new unit. But that's it. In the same period, Steam Modelers got 32 new models, brand new models, Well, I'm sorry, that's really disappointing. And as much as I appreciate, that there are a lot of Steam era modelers, there's also people like me who modeled the late 80s, early 90s kind of period. This year there are 2 models. Unless you can repaint, which I'm fortunate I can, there are 2 models that came out this year for me from Hornby, and that is a Class 60 in rail freight construction and a hopper wagon. In sort of like early 80s rail freight livery, a HEA, and that's all. That's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share. Sorry, actually, before I do, I'm going to give you an analogy. And if you consider this analogy and then look at what I'm going to show you, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. So your dad and your granddad are getting brand new Blu-ray players and the latest movies from this year. Okay, well, next year, last year, sorry. But, the latest Blu-ray movie that's just come out this week kind of thing. And they get to play them on 8K players. And if you're a diesel electric modeler, the analogy going, you're getting a DVD player in the regular release and a VHS player railroad release with a paint job on it, with some old movies from like 20 to 30 years ago. Sorry, for 2 to 30 years ago. I'm sorry. So and it just makes me feel like a second-class citizen. As a modern image modeler, I feel like a second-class citizen. I really do, and I just think that's quite a shame. So I'm going to screen share. I'm looking at RM Web because they've got an illustration of everything. So let's just pop that there. Okay, so look, 1, 2, 3 new steam engines. There's also this, let's see if it pops up. Sometimes it's a little bit fuzzy. Oh, there you go. So we've also got a steam era diesel shunter. Now you can just about get one of those, get away with one of those sat in a siding somewhere. Like if you've got an industrial layout or something like that. But really, how much use is it really? But so so you've got 3 versions, a couple of versions of coaches here. So let's click these ones. RM Web seems to be really slow when it comes to stuff opening up. I think that's not going to work. No. But look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 models with that paint, with that model. Again, the picture's not opening up, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Hang on, didn't count that properly. 1, 2, 3. Oh, here we go. But these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 new models there. And yeah. So they're revising the Mark IIe, because if you know anything about the Mark IIe, the chassis didn't fit on properly. It left a sole bar at the bottom. Now, I'm fortunate. I went and bought loads of these. I bought 33 of them, 32, can't remember now. But I'm going to modify the chassis to put it in the right place. I'm also going to modify the underframe as well to make some of them into Mark IIFs. This is a pragmatic thing because I just couldn't afford the the 20 odd ones that I would need from Hattons. From Beckman. At 50 to 60 quid each. It's just too expensive. And then they've modified the body shell with for the Mark III coach. This is a oh, okay, I'm seeing something interesting here. Let's see if this opens up. Okay, it's going to go back. Come on, open up. RM Web is so slow. It looks like it's got a close coupling system built into it. Okay, that's good news. That's a nice bit of work. But you can see how they've modified the door. So it's a new body shell. It might be a whole new chassis. So it might even be a whole new model. Wow. Okay, why did that do that? There it is. No. Okay. So wagons, 1, 2, sorry, that's 1. It's just do 3 versions of the same thing. 2 body shells, because these don't look. Are these planked? Oh yeah, they are planked. It's just back. And then an LMS brake van. The LMS brake van can be used. That is something that can be done. In fact, if I grab you a picture, just watch Dave Train's live stream, and he was, the chap from Hattons there. He was saying that brakes, pre-BR, Midland, and he was saying there was some in the Merseyside area, and that's quite true. There are a couple of brake vans that were painted in Merseyrail colours, and they used them as barrier vehicles for moving Class 507 and 508 units to Wolverton for overhaul. So that's kind of interesting. But I could use one of those for this, which is the Mercury train. But yeah, they used them quite extensively in British Rail period, right up until the 80s, late 80s into about the early 90s, but not much more into the 90s. So yeah, you can see there you go. There's one on a departmental train. And of course, Hattons are bringing out one of these type of vehicles. I don't know if it's exactly the same one. Sorry about the ambulance going by. So yeah, that can be useful. So this is toy stuff, really. And it's like, this is old stuff. A lot of it's just revised stuff. Now this one is a pretty sad, disappointing one. Let's see, is that going to open? Come on, load up. Try again. see if it opens up. Okay, let's see if I'll wait and see if it does. But this is the 1977 Intercity 125. So if you had a train set many years ago before the new one came out and before they bought the Lima ones, this is the model. So you know, this I had one of these as a child. So this is a 30-odd-year-old model, 1977, so 40 years old. And it's been redone. I don't know what this coach is like. That looks like it might be a longer one. I don't think it's one of the Shorty Mark IIIs. It looks long enough to not be that. Has it opened up? Yeah, there you go. You can, if you look, so you can see it's got the hard plastic piece on the top with the raised bits there, as opposed to having the holes in like the railroad version has. It's got the hole there, you know, the window there, which the ex-Lima model doesn't have. And it's got the pushing bits and it's got the gap there, of course. So you can see with this slot there, this is not the Lima one. In fact, you'll be able to see later because now Eurostar, yeah, Eurostar's cool. I'd actually quite like one of those, but what I'd like to do is turn it into, I'd like to make a 16 coach or 16 length vehicle unit, which is one of the north of London sets that were supposed to go sort of through the Channel Tunnel and then up to Manchester and Glasgow and places like that, but it never happened. And in the end, the last thing they did in the UK was to work on the East Coast Main Line. A train set, fine, whatever, starting off for the kids. So, ancient steam engine stuff, you know, old models, but whatever, it's fine. These are railroad models. These are the old Lima model. There you go. This is the let's see if that opens. So that's the railroad one, which is the Lima one. You can see how it hasn't got the door there. That's because it's one of the late versions from, what was it? I think it was 167 onwards, something like that. No, 154. I can't remember the numbers now. But you can see how if we compare this, it's got the slots there, that slot there, and this doesn't have it. So this, you know, this is just the ancient model with the ring-filled motor, possibly, you know, with a new paint job on. This is the railroad one, which is the ex-Lima model, and they put, I don't know if they put a new new motor in it. Old stuff again, but that's railroad. So loads of steam stuff, loads and loads and loads and loads and loads, more and more. Yeah, and then we get to diesel electric stuff. So ex-Lima, 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 ex-Lima. Modern mold. Can't use any of these really unless I'm going to strip it down and repaint it, but you know, still a nice enough model. And of course, you know, if you want to do Caledonian stuff, you can get away with it. Only problem is not going to be any Mark 5s for it to haul, but you know, their old you know, their old mold from the, what was it, about 96, 95, 96, I think it was. You know, so 3 versions of that. Nice to see a DB Schenker liveried 60. I'm sure that'll be very useful for people. And then there's the first thing that's of use to me. Royal Construction liveried loco. You know, Pullman 67, that's okay. You know, nice green loco. They brought several of them out before. It's just another version with a different number on it. And then the same thing in BR blue. You know, but with the cab, with the flush end version as opposed to the head coat box version, as this one is. Network Rail 31. How many have they brought out already? Several, but you know, they brought out the last one, I think it is. That can be useful to me. It's got the lower headlights on it there. The high intensity headlight is lower, and it's got the standard grills there, so that I can use that, repaint it, you know, into multiple things. Again, Eurostar, that's useful. This one here, we got the Lima 47 with Airfix Airfix Mark IIs, Mark IIDs. This one's okay if you modelled that period, or you could just swap out the loco and stick a Depot 73 on it, and you can model the 90s because these coaches did operate with it. IEP, yeah, welcome. I mean, not my era, but you know, it's good news. They brought them out in the latest livery, and that's cool. 156, it's an old model, and you know, that's nice enough. But you know, I think if Real Track brought out this livery, I think they would you know, eclipse this release, because this is an 80s model with basically a plastic box piece there compared to a modern chassis. Now, the Hill and Bell units, this is an example where Hornby a few years ago brought out over 3 years 3 new diesel electric stuff, except for they were diesel electric stuff from the 30s, and they were all withdrawn by the end of the 60s, or one of them was into the very early 70s. So they were all withdrawn before I was even born. So it's like, you know, LNER, HSTs. Well, that's nice. The center coaches for the Eurostar, that's fine. Like I say, I'd like to get some of those to go with the Eurostar, repaint it into the original livery. You can increase the length of your Northern Bell, again, the Mark II Ds, although most of them are Mark II Es or Fs. You can increase the length of your IEP. And then coaches, you know, steam. Those are useful. Unfortunately, these wouldn't be correct because they have plated up windows and other things. I mean, 975613. Let's have a look at that because I know I've got a picture of that. So trains, coaches, departmental, derailing. So let's have a look. So there you go. And let me just zoom in. That's 563. There you go, 613. Okay, so this is 975613, then 975613, and it's got a big massive hole in the side, you know, and plated up bits as well. So the model isn't accurate. You know, it's just, you know, a standard BG that's got yellow paint on it. So no effort to go the extra mile, but whatever, you know, some people will be happy enough with that. Equally the same with this vehicle up top. You know, I think there were a few that were just standard BSKs, but most of, you know, many of them had modified windows, usually this one. So Mark IIIs in LNER colours, that's fine. But again, not modern image liveries. Sorry, not liveries that are in my era, but yeah, I've already got plenty. And then we've got lots of steam wagons. And there you go, there's the other coat, the other vehicle. So the Class 60 and this, that's it for the era that I model. You know, and the rest of this stuff, You know, these are EWS era ones because they've got the big stanchions on. So yeah, that's it, and then some extra bits and bobs. Now, let me just zoom in. Just scroll back down. So we can see the HST Valenta decoders. That's good. I'd like some of those. I've got a couple of HST sets already, and it'd be nice to have sound in those. And then we've got an 08 and a class 50. So, you know, that's okay. That's good. I'm all right with that. And then a 6-pin decoder. I'm guessing that's for some smaller stuff. Let me zoom out a bit. A rolling road, a steam rolling road, mind you. And some other bits and bobs. So nothing really new in that. And then, you know, foreign stuff. So yeah, you know, when it comes down to it, I'm disappointed. I think it's kind of sad that, you know, once again, steam modelers get loads of new stuff, and when it comes to diesel electric stuff, you get a Mark II coach with a fixed chassis, and a Mark III with some sliding doors in it, and that's it. That's what you get. That's the total. You know, for everything else is just repaints. And so, as I said, you know, using that analogy again, your dad and your granddad, who were the steam era modelers, you know, they're the guys when you go to a railway show, and they're the guys with, you know, sort of, you know, beards and, you know, receding hairlines and things like that. Right, I'm being a bit derogatory here because look at my top of my head, but you know, they're what is it telling younger people? You know, because bear in mind that this is going to sound horrible. It's a sad reality of life. We all get older, and eventually, when you go to a railway show and you see guys that are pensioners, sorry, number ambulance going by. So when you see pensioners that, you know, a lot of pensioners at shows, 20 years time, those people won't exist anymore. It's as sad and awful that it is. Okay, so the hobby is narrowing. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It's a wedge, and there aren't young people taking up the hobby that they used to. So what we have for new models now, who, you know, there isn't going to be an industry in 30 years time. There really isn't. I mean, it's going to be a little niche market, but, you know, there isn't going to be that there. Now, what could Hornby do to tweak this a little bit? Well, why is it that they haven't been making any new units? You know, when it comes to locos, we're well placed. You know, we are, with the exception of a 91 and a 92. Well, that's coming. A 90 is coming. You know, maybe an 89 from Hellgen. That would be a good one. It's a one-off thing, you know, but they've done one-offs before. So what have we got that isn't either coming or out already? And that's really only a class 91 in terms of locos. So we're pretty well placed, you know, that over the last 15 to 20 years, you know, when Bachmann started producing modern mechanisms with, you know, central motor flywheels, you know, things like that. When they came out with, what's the first one they did? I'm trying to remember which was the first one they did now. I know the 37 was an early one. But, you know, when they started producing modern mechanisms, I mean, they first, as quite true, they first did it by tweaking the old Airfix stroke Dapol class 45 and put a decent mechanism in it, which is you know, a nice runner even now. Though the body shell was all over the place, it was quite wrong. But, you know, they made a modern version of it. But you can see that Hornby got dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century. or the late 20th century, you know, with the Class 50 and then 60 later on, and several other things since. But you know, a lot of what you see in the railroad range is back when Hornby were a toy train manufacturer, you know. And like I say, thankfully they got dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century with modern mechanisms, and they've done pretty well in many cases. But when it comes to diesel electric stuff, it just seems to be lacking. So I did a little bit of, you know, research before I started, and what's missing for diesel electric stuff? So we've already talked about locos, coaches. Now, coaches are pretty well represented. Mark 1s, Mark 2s. The only Mark 2s that need to be done now are Bs and Cs, Mark 2B and Mark 2C, and a new class Mark 5. And I think that it would be a good idea for one of the manufacturers to do those. We've got the sleepers, and of course we've got the transpennine ones. Now again, these are going to be somewhat niche things because there aren't loads of them, you know, but I think it's something that is viable. And then when it comes to DMUs and EMUs, there are loads and loads and loads. I've got, what's this, 90 different EMUs have been released since 1970. So 90 new designs that have come out or are imminent for things that have already been announced and are already in the planning stage or are, you know, sort of being tested. So like, for example, Greater Anglia and, you know, some of their new units that are coming, because Greater Anglia is replacing every single thing in their area. You know, everything from the Class 90s and Mark 3s, they'll be going. You know, 156s, 153s, you know, all that lot will all be going. The 170s, that'll all be just moved around other places, cascaded to other systems. But since 1970, there have been 29 DMU designs that have come out. And out of those, 16 of them have come out in model form, in one form or another. And that's pretty good. That's good going. And of course it makes sense because until recently, you know, with the lack of overhead wires, it really becomes difficult to justify having electric units. But now we've got overhead wires, you know, Dapol and Pico both do them. There's no reason why we couldn't see a whole new range of EMUs coming out. And out of EMUs, there have been 61 designs, of which 10 have come out in model form. That's it, 10. Now, I'm not including kits in this. I'm talking about ready to run stuff here only. So where are you know, where are the Class 313 to 315 and 507, 508? Where are those? Well, those are going to be going to the scrap heap soon. They've done 40 years of service and they're going to the scrapyard. The 315s are now being scrapped as the 345s replace them. The York-based units, you know, the 317, 318, 319, 320, 321, 322, 456, 455, those units, you know, basically like 150s type units. How many of those have been produced? None. You know, and the thing to bear in mind when it comes to units is that when it comes to the real railway, if I live in Manchester, if I go to Manchester Piccadilly, I will see 3 locos in a day. I'll see a couple of Freightliner type trains going to Trafford, and I'll see a 67 on the Arriva, or not Arriva now, but you know, the Welsh train going south North Wales. That's it. That's what I'll see all day. A few freight trains, but there's no local haul trains anymore. And unless you go to maybe somewhere like Barnetby, or a heavy freight area, bits on the West Coast Main Line, well, the majority of what you'll see today are units, and more units, and then the odd loco. But of course, as railway modelers, we tend to do loco, and the occasional unit. I've got a lot of model units in my collection, a lot more locos, of course, but when I run things, I'm going to run units, and locos, depending on how it would run in real life. But there are so many things that Hornby could come out with. Let's look at 304, class 304, 305. Very similar. 308. So that's 3 families from basically the same design, and if they do it right, they could have it so that they can use slightly different molds to do multiple vehicles. So the possibilities are huge. 317, 318 unit. That's quite feasible as well. How about the class 175 and 180? Those things are almost exactly the same. The only real difference between them is the cab on the end. Everything between the cab ends is the same. The design is the same. The seating's a bit different, but that's it. So that's a pair of pretty smart units that could be done. You just have 2 different cabs and the rest of it's the same, and just stick them in different paint jobs. And there's a number of them now. Something like 180s, I think they're up to about 6 or so different livery versions. 175s, well, Arriva couldn't make up their mind which version of Arriva they were going to stick them in. And of course, there was the original first Northwestern livery, and then with the Arriva branding on them as well. So there are options, and it's like, don't they realize this? And to be frank, I think they don't care. I think that their primary target is steam people. I think that's it. I think they're like, oh, we'll chuck the diesel electric people a bone every now and again, but mainly it's steam fans. And so I just look and I feel disappointed. Every year, I just think, let's see what Hornby are going to bring out. Oh, yeah, more steam engines again. The year before last, when they announced an 87, it's like, oh, brilliant, something I can use. I mean, and I'm not even going into the fact that models cost a lot more money these days. Look, I accept, that it does. And it's a sad reality of life. But, if you want to do railway modeling and you don't want to spend much money, that's not the hobby for you, really. You want a cheap hobby, go bird watching something, go mountain biking, something like that. If you want a cheap hobby, don't do railway modeling. It really isn't cheap. Not unless you want to do a little sort of branch line terminating station or something like that, where you just have like maybe 3 or 4 units and a couple of locos or something, a few wagons. You want to have a big roundy layout that's like 15 foot long and has multiple sidings and loads lots of stuff going on. You're going to be paying a lot of money. So the fact that we pay more for our models, well, that's just an unfortunate reality of life. And of course, it's not helped by the Brexit effect. That the price, the value of the pound has dropped thanks to the instability of what the government's doing or not doing or whatever. Every time Theresa May goes on and starts talking about something, the price takes a tumble. The pound takes a tumble. Because it's just like we don't know whether we want to invest in, you know, currency, the pound as a currency, because it's just not worth as much anymore. You know, I mean, I remember, about 15 years ago, I remember going to America, and it was $2 to the pound, you know, but it was averaging, even when it dropped, it went sort of about, you know, 170, you know, 117, 118. Sorry, 170, 180 to a pound. And that was fine. But now it's 130. You know, it's taken such a pounding with this whole Brexit thing. And then, you know, on top of that, most of our models come from China. So if we export stuff, it saves us, it's good. You know, exports is good. When the pound is low, exports are cheaper. Because, you know, we can sell them for a cheaper price, or than you might be able to get in the rest of Europe or other countries. When the pound is high, it costs, you know, other countries can be more competitive when it comes to exports. But since we import a lot of stuff, and of course railway modeling is a perfect example of this, then what we, you know, it costs, you know, they produce something, you know, it costs us more money to buy it because the pound isn't worth as much as it used to be. You know, so if it's dropped by, let's say, you know, 20%, that's 20% more it's going to cost us to buy the same thing. And, you know, like I say, all our stuff comes from China. I don't know if anything is made in the UK. Oh, it might be assembled in the UK, but, you know, so as a result, it becomes a problem. Now, look, whatever you think about Brexit is a completely different matter. I'm not talking about the, you know, the vote leave, vote remain, any of the politics that goes with it. I'm only talking about the reality of the, you know, the instability and, you know, how it's all going on. People aren't sure. We have companies that are leaving the UK to invest in other countries because, you know, they just don't like the instability of what's happening or what might happen or what, you know, what they anticipate is going to happen. And, you know, that just creates an unstable atmosphere. The same applies to railway modeling. And on top of that, we've also got the, you know, the fact that China has gone through an evolution in their working practices. So, you know, you get more time off and you get better wages, things like that. So, you know, workers have got better rights. They're not, you know, they're not slave workers anymore. They're now sort of, you know, lower middle class kind of level. And as such, they want to be paid more and they want to have more rights and so on. So, you know, I'm limited within the, you know, how the Chinese government works, but, you know, that's basically the answer. So all these factors mean that the cost of models has gone up, and it may go up a lot more. And of course, you know, what do we expect, like Hornby or Bachmann or whoever, to swallow the cost just because we want to spend a bit less money? They're not going to do it, because at the end of the day, all these manufacturers are there to make money. And you know, so it makes things difficult. So like I say, I'm gonna round it off. I'm disappointed with the Hornby range this year. Loads of love for the steam engine modelers, not much for the diesel electric stuff. We got a couple of things, you know, we got a couple of coaches thrown at us, and that's it, really. Everything else is paint jobs of stuff that's already been released. No new models, no new, you know, no new units, you know, out of a multitude that are available. You know, so I'm just disappointed. And I'm going to say that analogy again, just so people understand. So your dad and your granddad are getting brand new Blu-ray players and the latest movies to play on their 8K TVs, while the diesel electric modelers, the equivalent, are getting a DVD player and a VHS player with a shiny new paint job with old movies from 2 to 30 years ago on a CRT TV. You know, if you're a diesel electric modeler, if you're in a diesel electric modeler, are you feeling like a second class citizen now? So, yeah. So there's one other thing that I want to tell you about. On Sunday, I'm going to be making a big announcement. There's going to be a big announcement on this channel. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but it will change the way this channel will be presented. It'll change the way that you look at me, you know, and you know, the modeling won't change. However, you might feel differently on the way that I present things. So I hope you'll come and join me. It'll be happening about maybe 10 o'clock on Sunday evening. And I've got a couple of YouTube channels, so I'm going to be telling them on that as well. So it's not just railway modeling related; it's a life thing. There's a change in my life that's happening, and it's going to change everything. It's not something I can hide. I can't, you know. But anyway, so I'm not going to go into it now. You'll have to wait until Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. So, so thank you for watching. I've had a steady stream of people watching. It's about 9 to 11 people-ish. And so thank you for watching. I hope you could, if you watch this later, leave a comment underneath, and it'll be nice to see what your opinions are. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? I underneath in the description it says these are my opinions, and they are. I don't expect you to to agree with me. I am only giving what I feel about this situation. And if you don't feel the same, feel free to say so. Honestly, feel free to say so. I have, I have fairly high standards, and not everybody does, and that's fine. You model to whatever you like, and but having older models with a new paint job isn't the same as new shiny stuff that I can buy. It's not really new. It's just old stuff with a new paint job. And I think diesel electric modelers deserve a bit more than that. It's almost Animal Farm. All modelers are equal, but some are more equal than others, and it seems the steam modelers are more equal. That they get lots of stuff, and these electric modelers don't get very much at all. Despite all the new stuff that's coming out in real life, we're still getting repaints of old stuff. So I hope everybody has a great week. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I'll be 45 years old. So I'm going to be going to Manchester and having a nice day, meeting up with a friend. So that's going to be good. So have a great day, everybody, and enjoy your modeling.